Welcome to the Media Bubble Podcast. It's the podcast that talks about all geeky media-related topics. I'm Karol, and he's Fredrik, so let's get this show on the road. Hi everyone!
Yeah, welcome to this episode where, as the title says, we have watched all the live-action Disney remakes, or the Disney remakes based on their animated films. Or at least I have. Karol has seen a bunch of them, but not all.
Yeah, I think I've seen few of them, but I'm more than happy to listen to you talk about them actually. And we also seen some of them together.
Yeah, we have. As I said, these are going to be remakes that are based on that Disney made a live action remake on later that is based on one of their animated films. Or related to them in some sort, because some of these might not be straight remakes. We're also only going to talk about the Disney remakes that are currently released as the time of this video. So, we're going to start this list because... Be ready, Karol, because this might be a long episode.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, just skimming through our slides, and I see that's a lot of movies we have to talk about.
So we're going to start with going back to the year 1996.
Jeez, that's 27 years ago?
Yeah, this first remake is older than one of the films that was remade. So, we're going to talk about the remake of 101 Dalmatians, which was released in 96 and was one of the first Disney remakes with... made in a different time, you can say.
Made in a different decade.
Yeah.
But this is also the one that has, like, besides the original, this one also has a cult following.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure about the cult following you are talking about, but... the biggest thing about this remake that is different between this and the animated version is the dogs don't talk. Which... except for that, the films are kind of similar in a lot of plot points. I guess there's a thing with the... I guess this film is a bit more focused on Cruella when she's played by Glenn Close, and just how mad and crazy Cruella can be at some points.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of Dalmatians, I always think of her role in this movie. That's why I said the cult following, or at least my cult following.
Yeah, it's always the villains for you.
There is an interesting conversation about villains having such a prominent role in, like, as queer role models, but I don't think this is the episode for that.
Okay. Have you seen the original?
A very long time ago. I think it was when I was maybe 10, 11. But I do remember the major events, I hope.
I remember watching this as a kid long time ago, and I came around in like the end of the film, and I saw... and by the ending of the film... It reminded me of Home Alone in a way, because I feel like they suddenly just start to make pain to their villains.
Yeah, I think that was just the trend at the time, which was successful. Like I think it worked very well.
Well, this was also made. This screenplay was also made by John Hughes. You know who that is, right?
I'm gonna guess it's the screenwriter for Home Alone.
Yeah, he's also a director. He's Like a lot of the famous teen movies of the 80s, he had something to do with them.
Going on another, actually, a little bit, not tangent, but another topic. I mean, you'd never think this movie would be a live action remake, but it is. You'd think mostly that the recent movies with the overly CGI animated everything would count that in, but yeah, I'd never thought that the live action Dalmatians would fall into that category.
Well, it does follow in that category, but you have a point. Like, when I first started to pitch this episode, I was kind of just thinking of the remake trend that started in the 2010 era, but I kind of included the Dalmatians also because I actually really like the original film. Like, if I'm being quite honest, this the first 101 Dalmatian film might be my favorite Disney remake, which is kind of sad because we have just begun the list.
It all goes downhill from here.
Yeah, and I don't know, the film feels very different, maybe because it was made in a different time, and also Disney hadn't really figured out this idea of, if we make remakes all the time, we can make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, why sell something new when you can rehash the same idea and cash in?
I really like this remake. It's really good, really faithful. It is different enough, I guess, when the dogs don't talk. One thing that I can be straight honest with is that when it comes to all these remakes, I always like the animated version better than like all of them. But this was a really good film and a great work for a remake, I would say.
Yeah, I think it stands on its own and like very well. That was a weird sentence, but I still mean what I say.
It also got a sequel a few years later called 102 Dalmatians. And after watching it, I can kind of say that it was kind of a film made to show off Cruella more, I feel like. Glenn Close as Cruella is the only character that returns from the original film, and they kind of made this plot of that they have made some experiments on her, so she is now not crazy now, but eventually she turns crazy again, and it's like, I'm gonna get those Dalmatians. Except for the 102 Dalmatian, because he doesn't have spots yet.
I mean, just the idea of a Dalmatian coat. How do you explain it to people? Yes, these are real Dalmatians. I killed 101 dogs for my coat. I am that wicked.
Well, she never was successful because apparently the dogs are quite smart, but...
But like, if she did, like, how would you explain yourself on the street?
Hey, have you seen my new coat? It's Dalmatian here.
Yeah, wait, you said Dalmatian, like fake fur Dalmatian, or these are actually Dalmatians?
Yes.
Oh, oh no, I'm calling the police. Beep beep boop beep 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 boop.
Well, what can I say about this sequel? It isn't. I don't think it's really based on anything. It's kind of an original story, I think, and it's kind of about a dog shelter or an animal shelter at the same time. And I don't know. There are some things in this film which made me go, this film got stupid at some points, because there is one character that is she doesn't trust Cruella, and then after a time she is fooled by Cruella, and then she's like, she fooled me.
I mean, you cannot trust someone, but also not be smart to realize when you're being fooled. I feel like.
Yeah, it's it's a quite a bit weaker of a sequel, if I'm being honest. Feels like this only was made to to see more of Glenn Close as Cruella.
Which is a valid reason.
And now I guess we're going to start with what's really my idea with these films, and that is kind of see the start of the remake era begin for Disney, because the remake era began with Tim Burton, who wanted to make an Alice in Wonderland film, and Disney was like, we can do that.
Yeah, I remember this one clearly. It was like, I think I liked it a lot when it came out, and then I forgot about it.
This was a smash or a box office hit. Like, it made $1 billion, and at that point of time, not every film made $1 billion, so that was a huge hit by then.
Yeah, but it's not. It's due to just the film itself. And also I think Tim Burton had enough of a name to just like, yeah, with him working on the movie, more people than normally would go and see it. Like, he had this massive pull.
Yeah, but it wasn't a critical success, if I'm being honest. Like, it didn't really have that much of a... it had success in the box office, not in critics or fans, I feel like.
Yeah. But it's like I said, like, I saw this movie and then I forgot that it existed. Just like Avatar.
This is kind of also one of the loose terms in remakes, because this isn't really a remake of the animated film, because this film, it doesn't take place when Alice is a child. It takes place when she is an adult and returns to Wonderland, and she has all these weird memories from when she was in Wonderland as a young child, and now she has returned, and she denies that this is reality, and always kind of thinks that this is a dream throughout the whole film, while every other character keeps saying that you're some kind of legendary hero who's going to fight the dragon creature.
Yeah, I think I remembered that as well. But I'm not against that. It also gave this movie its own identity.
One thing that I can be honest with, that visually this was a treat for the eyes, because visually creating is, I guess, one of Tim Burton's strong points, and this is kind of just perfectly weird with Wonderland flair.
Yeah, because it's not only fantastical, it's also quite dark, gothic even. And have you because this whole movie also reminds me, do you know of American McGee's Alice in Wonderland?
It sounds familiar, but I can't really come up with explain.
So basically it's almost the same story. So he portrays Alice as coming back to Wonderland from when she was a child, but his Alice has a little bit more trauma to her. I think her family died, and I think she blames herself for it.
Was this made before Tim Burton's version, or?
Yes, it was. It was specifically a video game on the PlayStation 2, I think. And then there was the game Madness Returns, which came on PS3, if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, this darkness, this whimsical, gothic feel is very similar to the game. And also the story.
Now that you said that it was based on a game, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so I always... for me, those two were always connected.
One thing that I can say about this remake is that when I first watched it, I wasn't that impressed by the film, but I rewatched this now for this video, and I guess kind of just because of all the other Disney remakes. I kind of feel like this film has become some sort of better because it has some originality to it.
Yeah, like it's not just a step like beat by beat rehash of the old movie. Let me see. Wasn't it? Yeah, I remember this because I cannot say her name. Uh, Avril Lavigne. She released a song specifically for this movie. It was Alice Underground.
Yeah, I gotta say that there's a lot of famous singers for some of these Disney remakes, and there's actually a lot of good songs that come or song covers that comes from these Disney remakes.
Yeah, like they always have a banging soundtrack, even though the later ones are not as stunning, I suppose.
There's one that is soon coming up that I really liked.
But I think we can move on from Alice, so we can get closer to your favorite, to the one you want, to the one you were talking about.
Can I just say that I never really was a fan of the original Alice in Wonderland story, and I kind of can just say that this was an okay film for me. It was a fine movie, but if you're looking for an Alice in Wonderland fan, I'm not it. Okay, I'm thinking of doing this one pretty quick because I'm not really sure if this even counts as a remake. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. If this is a remake, it's a remake about not even a film, but a segment of the Disney film Fantasia, which has a segment called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. And so, I guess this can somewhat count because it does share two scenes that is in that original segment, but other than that, it's like these two have no connections at all.
There's inspiration, but it's vague. Can I just quickly ask, this picture you took for the presentation, is that Nicolas Cage?
Yes.
I knew that.
Nicolas Cage is in this movie, Karol. He's the teacher.
Why? I mean, what? He plays in everything. Why am I even asking? Is this the movie where they work in it? I think I remember seeing it. They had this whole metal cage in one of their bases, right?
Yeah, they might have. It was a while ago I watched this, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think now I'm starting associating the movie. Like he was an apprentice, and this girl she didn't know she was her like high school crush, and then she came to the tower one day. It's vague, but I remember it.
Wow, you really remember.
Yeah.
Like, what I can say about this film is that it's very in... I feel like this was very in the 2010 era film on just how those kind of films were made. It's very teen...
Costumey, dark, gritty.
Yeah, teen angst, and it also is that trope of discovering a world you didn't knew exist. Of, oh, you know no magic. I do.
And now this, yeah, but it's exactly as I said. There was just this trend at the time with these movies coming out.
So I don't know. I didn't really feel like this was very much of a good film, if I'm being honest. Like, if you watch it, it's an okay film, I guess, but I don't really feel like it stands out in time.
I think I'm gonna see it just for Nick. I'll make that sacrifice.
Just for Nick Cage.
Exactly.
Karol will watch all the films that Nick Cage are in.
I haven't, but I mean.
In the next episode, we're going to go through Karol watching all of Nick Cage films.
I don't think this episode will come out until like 20 years. I feel like.
Yeah. Okay. So, after Alice in Wonderland and the big success of that, all the other major studios tried to do their kind of own remakes on fairy tales, and how they made those remakes was like Alice in Wonderland was seen as kind of dark and grey, and so every studio kind of made an dark fairy tale remake. Like there was Snow White and the Huntsman, there was Hansel and Gretel, it was Jack and the Beanstalk, and none of them were really that successful, it turned out. Looking back on that era, I kind of feel like, I kind of wonder if people misunderstood what the trend actually was, because at that point it was making fairy tale remakes and make them dark. While when Disney kind of made remakes, it was kind of to remind them of the original, and that seemed to be more successful, I guess.
But not everybody got the memo.
And under that time, 2010 to 2014, Disney had weirdly been one of the studios that didn't make that many remakes. Like, this was a year separation of 3 years, and now they finally have made a remake, but they haven't really figured out it themselves. So this remake isn't a straight remake, but it's a remake starring the character of Malificent from Sleeping Beauty. Karol, how do you feel about this film?
I think that Maleficent is a girl boss that keeps slaying, and they should let women do whatever they want.
Have you seen this film?
I remember seeing it, but it was a very long time ago. I think around when it came out.
I have mentioned this in a previous episode, but I hate this film, and I hate it because of the basis of what it even is. Like, Maleficent is a character that is very popular in Disney culture because she is like always in like the...
She's evil. She's just an evil girl boss. She put the princess, like, somebody wronged her, and she just put the heiress to the throne back to sleep, and then she just effed off to God knows where and just waited to cause more drama. Like, it's fantastic.
If you try to help me there, then that was not the point which I was going with.
Okay, then continue.
Maleficent in the original Sleeping Beauty, she, in kind of making a like Disney villains ranking, Maleficent is always number one, and that's because she is just evil. She enjoys being evil, and that is kind of all she is, and that's why she is so popular.
Can I add to that?
Okay.
Besides her being evil, she's also dramatic. She's also campy. She is, as I said, a girl boss. So there's more qualities to her than just being evil that people like.
Yeah, but she is purely evil. There is not a good thing. She doesn't have a good thought in those films, which is kind of why I dislike this film so much, because Disney took their most popular villain that is famous because she is so evil, and they try to make her into a good guy, which I hate. Like, to me this doesn't work at all, and it kind of just ruins the film for me, because it kind of is like, oh, they are redeeming this villain who shouldn't have been redeemed, because her whole popularity is because she is evil.
I disagree.
Yeah, I know you do, but I disagree with you.
Yeah, but I think that's alright, because I feel like maybe it's the wrong argument that I'm trying to make, because I feel like we can have the Maleficent that's evil and just there's not a single good thought in her head, and we can also have the Angelina Jolie Maleficent, who is kind of good. She's like the alternate universe of Maleficent. Like, we can have both and. and I enjoy both.
Yeah, I can't do that. Like I feel like this.
It makes you sick. It makes you want to throw up.
If I'm being quite honest, I feel like this is a bad film if you just watch it. Like there's some weird stuff they do to kind of make it seem like Maleficent is the good guy in the story. There's a crazy king. There's three fairies who is supposed to take care of Sleeping Beauty, but they apparently are terrible at their job, so Maleficent has to take care of her.
I mean, yeah, but that comes with the territory. Like, as you said, like, they had to switch it around since she cannot be. She can be, like, menacing, evil, and like, apostrophes. But she's the hero of this story, so they couldn't make everyone, like, be good.
I kind of just dislike this film, if I'm being honest. I disliked why it's made, and I don't really feel like it's that good of a film. Like, one thing that I can say that I felt like was somewhat good was the forest visually. Like, it has the forest has very many magical creatures, and the lighting and setting at sometimes is really beautiful to look at. So that was kind of how I felt on Maleficent, and now let's get into let's see, 2015's I think Cinderella. Do you remember this film?
No, because I have not seen it.
After, I guess, Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent, that kind of took their own spin a little bit on the remake part. This Cinderella is much more straight of a remake of Cinderella, but it's not. It takes away something from the animated film. Like, the mice are not playing that big of a role this time. Like, I think the only one that got a name was Gus. And it's not a remake so much that you can recognize it for being a remake of the original animated film. Like, it takes a lot from that animated film, but it doesn't really feel like that straight of a remake. Like, this film stands on its own legs quite well, I would say. And if I'm being honest, if I'm just going to talk about critically which is the best Disney remake, I would probably say this version of Cinderella. The trouble is, this isn't my favorite remake because I have never been that big of a fan of the Cinderella story.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree, since, like, personally, I think the Cinderella is way too played out to make it interesting.
I guess that's also one point, is that Cinderella is kind of also one of the most made films out of old fairy tales. Can feel pretty confident in saying that Cinderella has probably made the most stories out of things that are based on fairy tales.
You said it's not. It stands good on its own, but it's not your favorite because you're not interested in Cinderella. Have you included your favorite one on the list?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that at some point.
I was just interested a little bit. I was
So
just
I'm going to expand on that a little. I'm going to rank this film at the end of the list.
All right.
As I can say, I feel like this film critically is much better. And one thing that I also like about this film is that they introduced the prince character before Cinderella meets him at the ball. So it isn't kind of just like, oh, they look at each other and they are in love. No, they actually know a little bit about each other before.
Oh, so they actually gave him a relationship.
Yeah, I guess this movie expands the role of the prince a lot more, and yeah, in a positive way.
Good.
I can also say that visually this film looks really fun, and it really feels like, even that this is supposed to be a live action remake, they still had a lot of fun visually of what you could do with colors, and yeah.
Yeah, just from the stills you've picked, you can see just such opulence and such color in every scene. I love it.
Yeah. This one that I made here, I specifically had a theme in mind, and that was when Cinderella was going to the ball. One little detail, that if you look at like in the middle portion between the prince and Cinderella,
It's
in the middle I have taken her stepmother and stepsisters.
That is a nice touch. Do they play as a big of a role as they do in the original story?
Not the stepsisters, but the stepmother might play a even bigger role. Like she might be more evil in this version than the original, because she for some reason she just wants to see Cinderella be punished in some way, what matter the cost. Like, I mean, she doesn't want her to be happy at all.
Yeah, sometimes people are just vain or straight up evil. In case of her stepmother's case. In case of her stepmother's case. Going on a little bit off from the story, I want to, because it rings true to what one of my coworkers once told me about. For example, like when she went to, I don't think it was military school, but it was, what was it? Naval school. Because one of my colleagues did go to naval school for God knows how many years. But she kept flunking because this one teacher that just had it out for her. And she held it against my coworker that she had like a side job because she needed to support herself. So yeah, she didn't finish school just because of that awful person. And I feel like, circling back to Cinderella, this is just her godmother. It's just this awful person who comes up with shitty excuses just to inflict pain on Cinderella.
Does the story end there? What happened to the co-worker? Did she get the...
No, she didn't. She didn't get the diploma. It's like all her friends finished school, but she didn't. And I mean,
I thought that this story would have a good ending, but that's just sad.
No, at last, life is not a fairy tale. Sometimes it's just shitty.
I guess so. Okay, if we're going to the next, we're going to talk about the 2016 Jungle Book. I also kind of want to mention that in the bottom right corner you might see another picture. That is of the original 1994 version of the Jungle Book, because I guess I didn't mention this before, but the first actual Disney remake was a 1994 version of the Jungle Book. I don't know, I didn't really feel of making a slide for that one specifically, but I guess I can explain it in some short words. It kind of is I kind of feel a bit weird about it, because when watching it, it reminded me of a collection of Disney films. Like, it feels like it is a weird blend of the Jungle Book meets Tarzan meets Aladdin. In this version also, Mowgli isn't really a kid that much in the film. Like, he has grown up, and in this, one thing that also confused me a little bit about the film is that in the beginning of the film, Mowgli is with people. He can walk and talk a little bit, and he is with people. And then he gets separated and is in the jungle. but it doesn't really explain why in all those years, if he knows humans and has lived with them before, why isn't he just trying to get back? He's kind of just staying in the jungle for some reason.
Wasn't he also staying with the wolves? Like, didn't they adopt him later on?
I guess that kind of is one scene of the films, but that's not really expanded on in that version. But as I said, the 1994 Jungle Book, I don't know, I kind of just felt like it was an ordinary 90s film with a kind of Jungle Book cover onto it, and I don't know, I didn't really like it. So let's talk about the 2016 version, which we actually went to watch on cinema together.
Yeah, I remember it as well. I sure I already said this multiple times in this episode, but I forgot that this movie existed. I guess I have a memory of a goldfish because, like, as you said, we went to see it together, but I am blanking out on. I remember the wolves, I remember Baloo and Bagheera, and I remember some of the story, but otherwise, I totally forgot about what happens in it.
I guess the film became quite famous because of how visually it looked. Like the animals looked very realistic for 2016. Like nothing had been close when it came to with CGI.
I think it still holds up really well.
Yeah, in that level of sense, it does. I gotta be honest. When I was a bit confused when this came out. If people just praised it visually of the movie, or if they actually liked the movie, because if I'm being honest, I didn't really like this film when I first watched it. And there are a lot of points, I guess, which you can make of why didn't you like the film, like King Louis' weird song, I guess, is one point, but the main reason why I didn't really like the film was Mowgli himself. A lot of kid characters are famous because they're kind of annoying, and I kind of think that they kind of try to make Mowgli older than what he's actually supposed to be in some way in his personality. And for me, that didn't really work because I never really felt like Mowgli was really a kid in this film. One thing that I can kind of think about is that when he's going to be separated by the wolves, which is kind of has been his family since the day he grows up. It's kind of like his mother and father and things like that. And he's kind of like, I will go and go because it's the best for the wolves. But I'm kind of just thinking of, this is everything he knows. Like, I was kind of just thinking it as the same way as my own mother and father. Like, I just felt like that doesn't really make sense for him to make that choice, I feel like. And also Mowgli invents throughout this film a whole lot of inventions, which is kind of supposed to make him a bit like, oh yeah, I'm a human, I can invite, or I can
invent.
I can make a lot of stuff with the materials, but it's kind of like at the same time he's a kid. Like, kids don't really come up with this stuff. Like, maybe if he was an adult I could believe it, but there's some inventions in this film which is kind of like, you're a kid.
Yeah, some invention feels like a stretch.
I don't know, there's a lot of other aspects that I didn't really like about this film. There are some that, I guess Bill Murray as Baloo was kind of okay. Not as good as the original, but it was okay, I guess.
Do you know that people ship Bagheera and Baloo together?
I probably do.
I did not know that. I found that yesterday online. I'm just like, why?
I guess one of the also thing that I was a bit frustrated on when it comes to this film is that in the end of the film, in the original animated film, Mowgli returns to the human village because, you know, he is a human. He can't really stay with the animal all his life. But in this version, apparently that is the opposite of what he does, because then he's like, oh no, I'm going to just stay with the animals, and I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure if this is really that good of a message. Like, you should probably not be around wild animals when you're a human.
Yeah, it feels a little bit dangerous. Maybe there was a point for him, for Mowgli going back to his own.
Yeah, it's kind of also like when he grows up and maybe wants to find, maybe I want to be in love with someone. What the choices do I have? Should I take that wolf over there?
You just, Fredrik, you just put such a bad image into my brain. Please don't.
Well, even thought that Karol tried to defend this film without even really remembering the film. I gotta be honest, like the points that I still have made kind of still is in my mind of why this is a not really as good film as the original, and why I didn't really like it that much. There's a lot of more points like that I guess could be made, but to me this doesn't really stand that much of up to the original animated film, if I'm being honest, and I didn't really enjoy it as much.
I think I'll agree with you. Since I don't even remember, like, if I look. Well, I mean, I go out on a principle. If I can hardly remember the movie, then it probably didn't leave a good impression on me. Like, even bad movies leave something that I can talk about, but nope. Jungle Book is just plain.
I guess it isn't really. I guess a lot of fairy tale films is supposed to have an element of fun in them, and I kind of just felt like the fun that was in the original animated films was kind of taken away to make a bit more serious of a film, but I guess it didn't really work out in the best of intentions.
Yeah, because when you take out the whimsy, all you're left is like a normal world. It's not as fun. But going back to whimsy, let's talk about Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah, Through the Looking Glass, which is kind of weirdly similar to one of our first title ideas for this channel.
Yeah, I think, because we almost called ourselves Through the Looking Glass, but I think there was already enough, like, podcasts with the same name or media, and
I think it was Through the Media Looking Glass or something like that.
Yeah, but Media Bubble Podcast is a mouthful already, but Through the Media Looking Glass, I don't know. I prefer our current name more.
So, Alice returns to Wonderland. She is now a sea captain on her own ship, and she returns to her mom, who is, I guess, poor now, if I remember correctly. And Alice, she wants to marry Alice off to some
rich boy.
Yeah, I think that's it. If I remember, I feel like I remember it a bit wrongly, but she returns to Wonderland, and the main reason to why she returns to Wonderland is because the Mad Hatter is feeling sad.
I think it was a little bit more serious than that.
No, that really was why she returned. The Mad Hatter was feeling sad, or angry.
Wasn't he like super mega depressed and he like was lashing out on everyone?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, a little bit more than just feeling sad.
Well, I kind of just remember the original trailer one. I watched this some years ago, and that was kind of what they were saying. The Mad Hatter is feeling sad. You have to help him. And to make the Mad Hatter feel great again, Alice goes to Father Time to travel back in time to figure out why the Mad Hatter is sad and how she can help him. And apparently it's so important to help the Mad Hatter to not feel sad that she is risking to destroy the whole timeline.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, this movie was a little bit more Mad Hatter centric. It explored his backstory like to a T, where it was like shown like his family was shown, what he did, how he sold his hats, how he then was recruited by the Red Queen to make hats for her.
Yeah, it also has a lot of younger characters from the original as well. Like, you see a lot of backstories to not just the Mad Hatter, but also to the White and Red Queen. Yeah, I don't know. It was a bit weird on just how Alice even thought she was warned that do not mixture with the time machine. You can make a lot of damage to world. I don't care. I have to help my friend.
I mean, isn't that always the case with like time traveling movies? Like, don't you mix up with the timeline? Oh, I swear I won't. Messes up with the timeline.
Yeah, but
Oopsie.
I really wonder if this really made Alice to be a hero or a villain in somewhat in this film.
I think heroes are still allowed to make mistakes. Like,
this is a pretty big mistake.
Yeah. But I have to say, like just visuals. I remember it's looking great. It's a lot darker in comparison to the first movie. Like the first movie was all very like grim and gothic, but right now this here is like full on dark depression mode, black
and blue.
And blue, lots of blue, and sometimes gold, because that's also the details stand out. And I overall enjoyed it. Like I remember having fun with both of the movies and the sequel.
One thing that felt so weird at some points is kind of all the time humor in this film. I guess especially with Father Time, or what that character was called. Like there's just a lot of... I kind of just felt like there was a lot of time humor in this film. Which was kind of just so... I guess corny that it was fun.
Yeah, it's so corny it goes bad and it loops back around to being funny.
I feel like this film is some kind of enjoyable. Like it has definitely some weird points to it, but it is enjoyable in some kind of crazy Wonderland way.
Which is kind of what you would expect from a Alice in a Wonderland story.
As I said, this film, it's weird, and it isn't always good, but it certainly is.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah, it's something to see, I guess.
Yeah.
Next, we have another film that Karol and I watched together, and that is Beauty and the Beast. And I feel after this film I kind of felt made the basic on how Disney later would make their remakes.
Yeah, this really feels like this was the template for the future movies. Very true to the original story.
I also remember that this film had a bit more hype than what Disney remakes usually did beforehand, because I guess there had been some of films that had been critically well received, and this Beauty and the Beast remake had such a great cast attached to it that this film kind of spread a lot of hype to it, which I can't really remember if any other remake really had that much hype behind it that this remake had. So, you watched it, Karol, with me. What did you feel about it?
I liked it. It's as simple as that. I feel like, as I said, it stayed all of it stayed true to the original. I appreciated how it tried to fix some of the plot, like to fill in on some of the information. I think it was just with Belle's mother, about how she died. There was a little bit more information about, I think the prince. I'm vague on the details, but I do remember they tried to provide more information. And they also provided some weird hiccups that I don't mind, which is in the original story, the Beast was like he was just locked in his castle. There was no way for him to travel the world or see the sights. But here we learn he, besides him turning into a beast, he also has magical artifacts. With one of them being, I think it was like a magical clock that allowed him to visit any place in the world, right?
I think it was a mirror.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a mirror. It was some artifact, and we never really learn when did he get it, how did he get it, why does he have it. It shows up in the scene when he takes Belle to see Paris. Was it?
I think it was explained how he had it. I think it was that kind of fairy in the beginning that turned him into a monster that gave it to him, if I remember correctly.
But why would she give it to him?
I have no idea.
I think people were really hyped about Gaston in this movie, which I can see why. And I even remember there was supposedly like I think it was also one of the ways. Oh yeah, we made. What was Gaston's sidekick's name?
Le Fou?
Yeah, like, oh, they made Le Fou gay. And it was just like all the rage or all the news about it. But it's like one scene. And then, like, it's not even like explicit. It's just context, that like subtext that he might actually like Gaston a little bit more.
It's a scene that is easily cut out for the Chinese market.
And the Russian one as well.
Mm.
So yeah, like that. I think those were the reasons for why it was so hype. Like banging actors, true to the story. Gaston, just the whole Le Fou is gay, and how? What else did they change? More stuff that explained some stuff, and also more stuff that led to more plot holes stuff.
Okay, if I'm going to say what I feel about this film, the film kind of in that way that I was saying that this is kind of how Disney kind of made the remix forward after this film, but I kind of meant is that it's very visually, it looks similar to the original. It also is kind of almost exactly like the original when it comes to the plot. Like they usually add like half an hour of content that usually you just end up thinking, well, that was weird. Like that scene that Karol explained with that mirror when Belle and Beast travel to London.
It was London.
No, it was Paris. It was Paris. Yeah. They are in French.
Yeah, like I was already fully like, oh yeah, you were right, but no, you were not.
One of the things that I also you mentioned that you really liked the plot details of Belle's mother. I guess it was okay for me. Like I didn't really feel like it added really anything to the story, if I'm being honest. Gaston and Le Fou, I kind of felt like it was a bit of an highlight of this film. Like the actors who portrayed them seemed to have really fun with these roles. And yeah, it was. I guess this film didn't get that good of a rap when it came out, but I guess mostly because of the songs, but I kind of just feel like this was actually a pretty good remake. Like it kind of delivered on what I wanted at the time, and that was to have to kind of just see how a fairy tale story would kind of look if it was made in kind of real life. That was kind of what I was looking for with this remake, and I don't know, it kind of delivers. Like I still feel like this is a good film, if I'm being honest.
It is, and also I kind of forget because you always seem to me like a more of a like a story purist. You'd like to see the story to be more up to the original tale.
Yeah, I would still say that the animated version is much better, but this one is. Sometimes you kind of just have to go back and kind of try to enjoy it and see what is actually there in a film, I guess. Like I know a lot of people that kind of just dislike Disney remakes just because they feel that they are lazy, but I guess you kind of have to also try to see somewhat what is there.
Yeah, because sometimes there is some good in the remakes.
One thing that I also can say that you mentioned a little bit about that that I actually did like is that when in the beginning of the film they make it very clear of, because the beast is supposed to be a prince, I guess a prince of France in that case, but that kind of just makes you wonder. Wait, wow, how did
Everybody just forgot?
Yeah, how did everyone in France just forgot that they had a prince? Well, it's because that spell apparently was made everyone forgot that he was a prince.
Yeah, which I think was a neat detail. It just, as I said, it kind of fixed some of the issues the original had.
I don't really feel like that was a major issue in the original, but it was a nice little thing.
Should we move on to the next movie?
Yeah, I guess so. Like I said, this Beauty and the Beast remake, I will say that it has some problems. It's not as good as the original, but I don't know. It's still kind of just a nice fairy tale film. Oh, are we coming up on Christopher Robin here next? This one, you also watched this film with me when I think about it.
Yeah, we did. I actually even remember a big parts of it.
Yeah. So this film, Christopher Robin, is a tale of Christopher Robin growing up, I guess, and I guess in some way he has a hard time feeling or having fun in his life. I guess he's kind of more serious adult, and he doesn't spend a lot of times with his daughter who he loves, but he can't spend a lot of time with her because he has to work, he feels like. And I guess this film is kind of just supposed to be a reminder of the important things in life, and maybe just to enjoy life in some way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the goals for Christopher in this movie is like so he can get time off from work just so he can spend time with his family, like so he can take a vacation, right?
Yeah, in some ways, yes.
Because when he comes back to the 100-acre forest, he cannot connect back with the gang. Like he's an adult, and he kind of forgot how to be a kid.
Yeah, he kind of forgot that. Yeah.
So yeah, like I agree. This movie is about finding like the important things: your family, taking time off, but also for me, it was to keep that wonder and keep that your inner child alive. Because once Christopher lost it, he was miserable.
I wouldn't say that he was miserable. He still have a daughter and a wife, but
he wasn't really thrilled about his everyday life.
No,
I feel like
no, he probably wasn't. Like as I said, this film is kind of about the important things of life. Like if when you are looking back at when you're maybe 70 or 80 years old, what was the important things that you will remember and enjoy in your life? Is it working so much, or is it spending time with your family? If I'm going to talk about this film, if I'm being honest, like the part with just the human actors, I felt was a bit boring in some way. It felt very straight to the point in some way. Like I feel like when this film shines for me is when actually Winnie the Pooh comes into the movie, because there's just something about Winnie the Pooh for me. He's just this charming, lovable bear with I guess an innocent fantasy and look at the world, and anything with Winnie the Pooh in it, I guess I'm going to like. So I kind of enjoyed this film.
Yeah, it's not a big secret you like Winnie the Pooh.
No.
But I feel like we're dancing around, because I feel like not all of our listeners may have seen the movie. Just a quick summary. As Fredrik said, Christopher Robin visits the 100-acre woods. He meets the gang. He feels miserable. And then as he leaves, what was the plot? Did he forget some documents? Did he forget...
He forgot I guess he forgot some documents, so his daughter takes Pooh, Eeyore, Tigger and Piglet to the city. But that is kind of by the end of the film. Like the main plot, or the main focus, I guess, is Christopher Robin going back to 100-acre wood and, I don't know, exploring his childhood memories in some way.
And I think it ends with them all having a picnic together, wasn't it?
Yeah, they do. And I actually have the ending scene as one of the pictures. The one where Pooh and Christopher Robin just kind of sit and relax together and look over the land, I guess.
Would you see this movie again if you had the time?
Yes, I would. Like I said, I feel like the human by themselves is a bit of a boring, but when Winnie the Pooh and the gang comes actually into this film, I feel like this film really works. Like it isn't really a remake of any Winnie the Pooh media, if I'm but
it's like a what if continuation.
And
like a what if scenario.
I don't know, it works for what it is. It isn't super serious in its plot. Like it isn't super going into it because it's still a Winnie the Pooh movie, and a lot of kids is probably going to see it. But
yeah, no explosions and no car chases.
Yeah, but I still feel like it managed to do what it wants to do, and I feel like it does it in a good enough way.
I also would like to just quickly point out how the designs are so nice, since it's just old toys.
Yeah.
When they could have made them just brand spanking new or really close to what we know for today. But no, it's just like old plushies, which are just Christopher's toys.
With the exception of Rabbit and Owl, because they were never toys in the original book, so their design is a bit more into the real animals. Okay, so to the next real film. Now we have Dumbo, or Tim Burton's Dumbo. Even though this is a remake of the animated film, it doesn't really follow the original film in many ways, I guess. The first thing is that there's no animal talking, like in other films, like the Dalmatian films, the animals don't talk. So to add characters and that can talk into this movie that didn't really exist in the original, there's a lot of new human characters introduced, like the two children who takes care of Dumbo, you can say, and teach him how to fly. And so some other characters. And another difference, I guess, is that in the original film, Dumbo kind of learns to fly by the end of the film, and in this film it's like an half hour in. Have you ever heard of this film, Karol?
I am a little bit of ashamed to say it, but I think I actively avoided it. I just didn't like the look of it. It's so like it's so gray. It just didn't like I never liked Dumbo in the first place. So seeing a live action remake was not something that I found interesting.
Yeah, I guess Disney kind of regrets making a live action remake out of Dumbo because this didn't do too well in the box office. Also Tim Burton also directed this, but there's his usual visual flair. Not really that much into Dumbo as some other of his projects, like Alice in Wonderland, for an example.
Because like all the marketing material is colorful, it's Americana, it's fun. But then I see the clips of the movie and it's just blah.
Yeah, I gotta say that the clips I have of the film on this page and the posters are very different looking. One thing that I can also say is like halfway through the film, this film I feel takes a bit of a weird turn because Michael Keaton's character comes in and he's this rich businessman that wants to take Dumbo and take him away from the circus to a place where he performs only on that place and doesn't move around in a circus environment, and
but
it becomes a bit weird because it's like Tim Burton made a weird Disneyland out of Michael Keaton's characters. So it kind of the kind of second part is a kind of weird Disney park version.
And the Disneyland owner is the enemy, is the antagonist.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Disney said okay to the script.
Yeah, like I wanted to say, do they know what kind of movie they were making? It seems a bit risky.
Yeah, they know what kind of movie they're making. Like there is someone that's reading this and thinking, yeah, this seems okay.
This is not like us. We're the good guys. He's the bad guy, and that's all. That's all what counts.
Yeah, this movie also has. I remember the end of the film has some weird message of you should not have animals in cages, so we're going to release all the animals, and it's like a good message, but I can't really pinpoint anywhere else you have really brought that point up.
Oh, so it just comes like in the last minute or so.
Yeah, it kind of just comes up at the end, I feel like. Like I don't really feel like they had this before in the film of, oh, you shouldn't have animals in cages, and then just at the end, we are now a circus that doesn't have animal cruelty because we don't perform with animals anymore.
I mean, it's a like at the end of the day, it's a good message. Like especially here in Sweden, there are no circuses left with any like at least exotic animals. We still maybe have goats or dogs, but we don't have elephants or giraffes or any of the sort. But also, that's not what the original Dumbo was about, I feel like.
No, I guess the original was more about Dumbo's appearances and how he gets mocked for how he looks, but later on it turns out that with the way he looks, he has this new ability to fly,
and since Dumbo can't talk in this movie, they had to make another like life lesson, I suppose.
Yeah, that message is still here in some way. It is, as I said, it kind of is taken away after like half an hour in the film. But yeah.
Would you suggest anyone to see this movie?
It wasn't it wasn't really that bad of a movie, if I'm being honest. It was an okay movie, but I'm not sure if I would suggest it to anyone. The only thing that I can really say about this film is that it was an all-right film. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that good really either. It kind of just stays at some weird middle point for me.
I think that was also the impression I got from just seeing not the movie but the market material. Like it, and also I don't think people online like this movie a lot.
Probably not.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think I like
I don't know. I'm not sure if I have that much more to say about Dumbo.
I have one question. So what is Danny DeVito? Because we have few main characters here. We have Michael Keaton's character, Colin Farrell's, Eva Green's, and Danny DeVito's. What did Danny DeVito do in the movie?
Oh, he's the... in the original circus that Dumbo comes from, he's the boss. What is that called?
Ringleader.
Yeah, he's the ringleader.
Okay. I mean, they at least have Danny DeVito in it.
Yeah, it has Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton. It's Return of the Batman in the reverse roles.
Dumbo, Disney's Dumbo, The Return of the Bat.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel in some way the film has Dumbo in its title, but it's like Dumbo is a side character.
But it's that you said, like they can't talk, so they had to make a story on the go. Like they had to include Dumbo, but since he can't talk to anyone, it's like the story has to be about something else.
I also had no really interest in seeing this film. Like I watched it last week in preparation for this video, so
you're the same as me.
I guess that also says something about it.
Amazing.
Well, I guess we can move on.
Yeah, let's leave Dumbo in the past and move on to Aladdin.
Yeah. If you thought that I was negative about Dumbo, then like at this point there had been a lot of remakes before, and as I said with the start of Beauty and the Beast, that kind of started a trend on how Disney would later make remakes. They would make it somewhat visual to what the original animated film was. They would maybe add 1/2 an hour of content that didn't really do anything to the story, and
then they add one high-profile actor to sell the movie.
And at this point, for me, this trend kind of just broke. Now, it was like, in Beauty and the Beast, I was fine with it. In Aladdin, I was tired of it. And if I'm being honest, I wonder if the ones that were making Aladdin even knew what they kind of wanted to do. Because like this film feels such in a way on how I feel like Disney kind of controlled on how they wanted it to be made.
You think there was just too much executive meddling? Like they just had a grip on the team?
There's no originality in this film, I feel like, and I don't know, I just feel like this is so much worse than the animated film was, because it's like everything I feel like in the animated film was better, and visually I just compared it to the animated version, and how even thought that was a desert, how beautiful they managed to make it look, and I don't feel like they managed to do that in this film, and I don't know, at this stage I kind of just got tired of the whole Disney remakes and the way they kind of made them, and how it's no originality in them, and what's in there is a worse worse version of what already existed.
Because so far, out of all the movies we have spoken about, there was always some kind of twist, some kind of a difference. Like, even in Beauty and the Beast, there was, like, additional stuff you could look out for. But I'm getting the feeling that, like, as you said, this was just a subpar version of the original.
I still felt like Beauty and the Beast had something they tried with the visual and how the castle and things like that look. Like Agrabah in this film looks incredibly boring, if I'm being honest. And the things that are added is not
that interesting or impressive.
I guess Yasmin's character is changed a bit in that she wants to be a leader. And the actress actually has a good singing voice. But I felt like that plot point isn't focused enough on for it to be a good plot point. It kind of just something that I feel, oh, that's there, like...
Just a throwaway character trait.
Yeah, it's kind of something else that kind of Disney started doing with these remakes. Is I kind of feel like they also are somewhat taking in more or adding in more political correct things in their movie, and they are just putting them in without really doing much with them.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid question, because if, as you said, like, if Jasmine, she wants to be leader but they don't follow up on that, then what the heck? Like, what was the reason for her to even want to be a leader?
Well, I guess they follow up on that in that she becomes a leader, but it kind of is just like the main focus and the plot is still on Aladdin. So if I kind of felt like if they wanted to really do that with Jasmine's character, they probably should have made that maybe a bigger part, or maybe just make another movie in that case.
Yeah, because it kind of a little bit feels a little bit wasted.
I also gotta say that the actor that plays Jafar in this film wasn't really that memorable. Like, Jafar in the original film is a memorable villain, I feel, but in this version, not really.
But you know who's memorable?
Will Smith.
Exactly, and this time he's blue.
Yeah.
Because
how are you supposed to talk about Will Smith nowadays?
I don't know. Like, people make such a big fuss about him slapping someone on the like an award show, and I really don't think it was such a big deal. Like, there was, from what I remember, it was Will Smith and his wife in the audience, and some other guy was bad-mouthing his wife, and Will Smith had enough, and he just slapped the guy right on stage. And Will Smith is forced to apologize for this to this day. It's been months since the awards show.
Like, people are human. Humans can make mistake.
Yeah.
I guess it was a very bad choice of time in doing that mistake. I guess Will Smith is okay in this film. He's probably the most memorable part, even though I don't feel like he really is as good as Robin Williams was in the original.
Yeah, I feel like he has big shoes to fill. Like, Robin Williams made that character. He made the genie.
Yeah. No, it's hard because Robin Williams is a guy that can come up with a lot of just crazy stuff in like 1 minute, I feel like.
Yeah, he was like, I mean, he had background in theater. Or maybe, I don't know if he did improv, but like, he was just a generally funny guy. And I don't think Will Smith is, like, he is a great actor. I loved him in, like, what was the apocalypse movie with zombies?
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, I said it and I thought about it. In New York, there's apocalypse. Zombies are like people hiding from the sun.
Zombie land?
No, like something last man on Earth.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, and I loved him in that, but I don't think he's really funny.
Well, as I said, I feel like the biggest problem I have with this is that the effort that I still felt was in Beauty and the Beast, I felt like that was gone at this point, that these movies kind of are just now easy cash grabs. And that's what I feel about Aladdin.
Just an easy cash grab.
Well, they made a lot of money from it.
I mean, yeah, it worked.
Like at some points you're kind of yeah, so in some way you can complain about originality, but at the same time, if it works, like, wouldn't you have done the same?
I mean, we also have to remember, like, Disney is a corporation. They want to make money most and foremost, so they found a money-making scheme with subpar movies, and apparently it works.
Yeah, just remakes the things that you love, but not as good.
Yeah.
And if people were feeling tired about the whole remakes thing, or if I was feeling that with Aladdin, I really feel like that when came to show with the next film on this list, The Lion King, because this film was really hated on when it came out. Like, even if it was visually good, I guess people could finally see some distinction between how a film can work in an animated format versus how it might be looking if it was realistic. Do you remember this film, Karol?
The Lion King.
When this came out, what was the main complaint?
I don't remember. I'm blanking out.
The main complaint was that this kind of so realistic looking that it took away the magic of the original. Like in the original animated film, you can see the visual expression of emotion on the lions' faces. In this film, you don't really do that. That doesn't really happen.
It doesn't translate.
And yeah, and this film, when I watched this, this is actually the last remake I went to watch, because from what I know of this film, it's like a point-to-point remake, just with the worse visuals.
Which follows the suit of Aladdin.
Yeah, I have also heard the point that someone looked at some real life lion footage, and that they can actually express some emotion on their face that is apparently not in this film.
But you know, this is a gritty, dark Lion King remake where emotions are not allowed.
The three biggest problem I felt that this film had was, one, sometimes when there comes words from the animals' mouths, you hear the words coming out, but it's like you don't really feel like they are talking. Like Sasu especially feels that way to me, where it kind of comes out words when he moves his beak, but it doesn't really feel like it's him that is talking. Another problem that I felt is somewhat of the pacing of the films. Like I feel like some scenes, especially it just moves the dialogue way or a bit too fast that the original didn't really do. Like, I feel like the original knew how to breathe a little bit better than what this film does. Like, sometimes I just feel like the dialogue moves a little bit too fast in the scenes. Like, just let the character breathe and take in the moment a bit more. And the third problem, or I'm not really sure if this is a problem or not, but Timon and Pumbaa is like the only really thing that I guess changed in this film in some way. Like all the other plot, as I said, was kind of the same, but you know,
like it's all similar, at least.
Yeah. Timon and Pumbaa has this I felt like they had this weird thing of almost making fun of some of the things they did in the original film. Like in the first one of the first scene that they are in, they are kind of like we're hyping up, saying Hakuna Matata, and then wow, you didn't react to that. We usually get a big applause when we say that. Well, you wouldn't have done that before the original 1994 version had came out, because that film kind of was the thing that made that word popular, but okay. I don't know, they are just self-reflecting a lot of stuff, and I just thought that it got weird. It was like seeing movie commentaries on The Lion King, but it's actually in the movie.
It was too self-referential.
And yeah, that's kind of what I can say about The Lion King. It's just a worse version of the original.
Let's see if the other movies will follow the trend, which I fear they will.
Next film on this list, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil.
Yeah.
Just one thing that I made this poster before actually watching the film, and one thing that I realized is that there's probably more Maleficent on my poster than the actual film.
She is she isn't that much absent. I feel like the movie actually did a good job on splitting the focus between her and Aurora.
Yeah, I think that was a necessary thing that the movie did, because I think Angelina
Jolie.
Yeah, I think she wasn't available to shoot for the whole film, so it was kind of like they were more, I guess.
It was a necessary change to the movie.
Yeah. So this film, like I said, I watched this for the first time last week in preparation of this video.
Yeah, you debated me so much. Like, you shoot me a message, oh, to next Sunday, see Maleficent 2. And I was like, ooh, we're gonna talk about Maleficent 2. No, it was for this video. This was for this episode.
I thought that was obvious when I sent that text.
No, it wasn't. You need to be more clear when texting.
The thing about this film is that when I started to watch it, I just felt like you needed to see this, because this was one of the craziest films I think I have seen in some way.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, because, like, the story is over in Maleficent 1, and then it, like, tries to expand, like, ooh, there's another kingdom, and there's another prince, and there are more
No, that's the same prince.
Oh,
it's Prince Philip.
Oh, okay. Then I think I have memory blanks.
Well, they changed actors to the two films.
I think that's what confused me. But I just have to say, the outfits in this movie, oh my god. Like, I love, because the whole premise is Maleficent meets, like, Aurora meets the prince again, they get married, Maleficent disapproves, but she agrees to go and meet Prince Philip's parents. The plot kicks in as, like the king is cursed, which prompts a war between the Moors and the kingdom. And I just, like, when Maleficent went to the dinner, and yeah, I'm gonna meet, like, the parents of my daughter, like my daughter's boyfriend, and she wears this dark cloak emblazoned with, like, bajillion skulls, and on her forehead is also a skull. And yeah, like, okay, like, this seems fine. This will not make people think that you want to kill them. Bravo.
Yeah, she also has this attitude all the time of, yeah, she kind of just looks angry or disapproving throughout this film, I feel like.
I feel it's also tough to see much, like, there are some emotions on what was her name? on
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, but her cheeks are so sharp, it's kind of hard to see emotion sometimes.
Yeah, maybe that too. And then there's Prince Philip's evil mother, I guess, which is obvious that she is evil, but I guess no one realizes it.
Yeah, and also she's incredibly dumb. Because the whole thing, she's very angry because when she was little, her brother was sent into the moors to ask for aid for the kingdom, and he was killed. Okay, fine, and this is supposed, and okay, I get she holds a grudge, but because she's missing her brother, and it's irrational. But in a way, she has the perfect situation where she has the king is willing to cooperate, the queen of the moors is cooperating, her son is also cooperating. Like, this is the scenario which wouldn't happen before. You're breaking everything, you dumb idiot.
There's also like one scene that I could not believe that they had in here was when all the fairy tale creatures from the forest comes in to see Aurora's wedding, and they go into the church, and it's just them there. There comes in the human guards locks this building up, and there comes in this girl that plays on the piano, and the piano
spews magical pixie dust, which turns every single fairy into, like, they die. They pretty much die. They turn into flowers and dust.
They die. They don't come back later on in the film. Like, they die.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just sitting there and thinking, I cannot believe they actually did that. Just hear what you was say.
Yeah. On-screen fairy death in Maleficent 2, everybody.
There's a goddamn World War II reference.
Oh my god, yes, because they were gassing up the fairies in the church. Jesus Christ. But can also, I just want to mention, because the dining scene when Maleficent finally met the parents, it was so good. Because, like, not only, like, there's already shenanigans afoot. Like, oh, the queen is allergic to flowers. Well, she's also, like, it kind of shows, like, she's against the fairies because she got the flowers from fairies. Then, just out of the sheer pettiness, they serve, like, fowl to Maleficent and her raven pal. And it's like, wow, really? Because she has wings, so we're basically eating her and also putting, like, all this fine cutlery, so she shows that she has no manners. And this movie has flaws, but I enjoyed the rivalry between the evil queen and Maleficent. Like, it was so petty. And
this film has so many flaws that it's become somewhat enjoyable. Like, we haven't even mentioned that most of the time in this film, Maleficent spends reuniting with her own race.
Yeah, which we didn't even know in the last movie about.
Yeah, there's apparently a whole dark elf people that have hidden away, and Maleficent comes to to them now, and she apparently is the most powerful of them for some reason.
Yeah, they even straight up say, "There's you like her blood is within you. You are her," and it's like, you guys just met.
As I said, I really disliked the first film for what they did to Maleficent, but I gotta say, this film was so
it was ridiculous
that it was that I was starting to enjoy it.
Like, they killed one of the fairies, like the fairy godmothers.
Yeah, and she doesn't come back. As I said, they straight up killed her.
Yeah, so yeah, because after the dinner, Maleficent freaks out. The king is, like, poisoned by the spindle, and Aurora just jumps on the wagon. Yeah, I'm not gonna trust my mom. I'm just gonna trust this strange, weirdo woman. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, like, betray your mom. When you said, like, trust me, mom. And then Maleficent flies, and she gets shot by lead because Aurora had to, like, spell out that she's allergic to lead. And she ends up in the water, and suddenly there's another Maleficent in the sky rescuing Maleficent. a Maleficent 2, so to say. A second one. And there's a bunch of Maleficents.
Maleficent 2, a lot of Maleficent.
Exactly. And also, I just wanted to say, because at Maleficent's like home country base, where the other Maleficents live, we have two of the guys that are like, I want war, but I want peace. And the guy who wants war, every time I looked at him, I thought, dude, you need some moisturizer. Like, that face is so cracked, it's so dry. Please take care of yourself.
Like the one that also had wanted peace. That I felt like he was introduced as this important character, and then he dies.
Yeah.
And I just felt like you hadn't spent enough time with him, that so that you felt that much emotion for when he dies.
Yeah,
So it's kind of just like, so it kind of almost was funny in some weird way.
It was, because it's just like you said. It's just like, here I am. I'm important, but not important enough to live. And then he dies, and it's like, okay. Weren't you like supposed to teach Maleficent the value of not starting a race war or something?
Yeah, it feels like you have more to do here.
But I like that. But I mean, the costumes, even the CGI was quite good. Like, I thought at the beginning we have this whole sequence where we see all the fairies like waking up and going to Aurora because she's the queen of the Moors, and I thought that it would be another like cheap, unfocused, let's not dwell, like let's not hang on the magical creatures kind of deal, because it costs money, so they would make them blurry. But no, throughout the whole movie, all the CGI creatures are well made and like they're pleasant to look at.
I guess this film surprised me.
So yeah, I'm glad you made me watch it.
Yeah, I guess to the next film.
To the next one.
And here we have a film that I feel is almost forgotten. We have the remake to Lady and the Tramp, which was kind of as exclusive to Disney Plus when that first released, but I guess they didn't do that great of marketing, because I feel like no one remembers that this exists.
I'm one of those people. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, so Lady and the Tramp got a remake, and the weird part is that I feel like this is one of the better ones. Like, I like the film visually, I like the film's story. I don't really feel like there's a bunch of added scene that makes the film that much worse. I really like the film visually, actually. Like, the original animated film was created in a way of, it didn't really make a place that existed. It kind of just was drawn as the most American house way at that time period. And I kind of feel like this film kind of got that into live action in some way, and I don't know, I kind of just like this film. I will admit that when the dogs talk, it looks a bit weird on their faces, but after some time, I guess I got used to it.
Yeah, I think there's always a weirdness coming with like animated dogs talking.
But yeah, I felt like this film, I guess if you want to give it one criticism, is that it doesn't really change a lot from the original film. But for some reason, I kind of just enjoy this film. It doesn't really feel like that big budget of some of the others, like Lion King or Aladdin, but I don't know, I kind of just found this ride somewhat enjoyable. It also helps that I really like the original too, I guess.
I feel like if I knew that it existed, I'd seen it. I would go and see it like when I knew about it. Like, I think I will actually maybe sit down and see the movie, Because I also enjoyed Lady and the Tramp, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen it in such a long time.
I guess that's what I have to say about Lady and the Tramp. A remake that is forgotten that is actually somewhat good.
Yeah, I mean, they I don't know, but Disney just makes these weird decision of putting good movies on their streaming site and not marketing it well enough.
Well, I feel actually this film probably was a good choice to put on Disney Plus. Like I'm not really sure if this one would have been done that good in theaters, if I'm being honest.
Maybe so. But on to the next one, which is Mulan. Wasn't this also a streaming service exclusive? Like, didn't you also?
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be. This came out under the pandemic.
Yeah,
and
but I also remember that you had to pay an additional fee to see Mulan.
Yeah, you had to, because Disney was like, we are going to lose a lot of money on this film. Can we somewhat make up a bit of that money? And they came up with this
awful scheme.
Yeah, they came up with this thing of you can watch it now for an additional cost. But if you were like me, you would just wait through that time and watch it when it became free.
I mean, I intended to see this movie, but even like after it came out and I've seen the reviews of it, I just gave up. I've heard that this is not a good movie at all, and it kind of screws up the whole Mulan story.
Like, this film is a bit weird to talk about, because I feel like this film had such a big also backlash before it even came out, because I think it was filmed in a location that wasn't.
Oh yeah, I remember. Wasn't it filmed in China or in a labor camp situation?
Yeah, in some way like that. It was. I don't quite remember it because it has been a while, but there was some big backlash behind either the filming or maybe one of the actresses or something like that. Yeah, I don't really remember. There was a big backlash on it, I remember though.
Ah, wait, I found it. I just googled the criticism. So, this is by BBC News, and it explains the whole drama. So, Disney is under fire for shooting its new film in parts of China where government is accused of serious human rights abuses.
Well, they probably should have thought that one through.
Yeah, and apparently also the main actress was she was saying, because during COVID we also had the situation with Hong Kong, and for the people that missed it or who are listening way in the future, basically China just annexed Hong Kong, and the main actress was pro-China. They should probably get rid of all the protesters that are protesting the annexation.
Yeah, it created this weird thing, because Mulan was kind of marketed in this strong way of women power and all different things of what that stands for, and then it receives backlash of all other stuff.
So, I think it's just but it's also just like the combination of the scandal of where it's filmed, the main actress being pro destroy the protesters. Then there's the pandemic that hit, which slashed the profits of this movie. And also all the historical inaccuracies, because I've seen a few videos on YouTube explaining some of the how some of the parts of the movie don't make sense or are not exactly up to par with what would be in China at the time.
Yeah, this film just sounds like a mess if you're being honest.
Yeah, it does. At least everything surrounding it.
I also can say that they probably should have made the actors and actress speak Chinese for this film, because they speak English and you're kind of just noticing that these people probably don't know English too well.
Yeah. Like, and not to hold it against them, I think if they made it in Chinese, that'd be freaking cool. Like, we already have movies, at least here in Sweden, where actors are taking in their native tongue. Like, we have Bron, which is a series about, like, criminal detectives working between, like, Norway...
Well, that was made in Sweden, Karol.
No, but they also people in there are also taking Danish or English, and we have subtitles for that.
Okay, I guess.
And, like, I just think it'd be a cool... I mean, it wouldn't be marketable, because people don't like some people don't like to listen to subtitles. But just saying, a Chinese dub would be pretty fun.
I gotta say that I'm so used to subtitles nowadays because in Sweden not a lot of English films gets translated, so I'm kind of just used to subtitles. And for people that think that they are distracting, then they are weirdly not, but you just get used to them.
Yeah, like I feel the same. And also, I think there's a video online talking about the specific, like, because subtitles are becoming more and more, like, commonplace. And some people can't even watch movies without subtitles, even if the movie is in English. And it has to do, like, with audio mixing, where it's difficult to hear, like, what everyone is saying, or it's distracting what happened, what, like, the action on screen, and you can't really focus on the words. But I think I'm derailing this conversation a
lot. Okay, if I'm going to just speak about the film Mulan, it was an alright film, I guess. It wasn't as good as the original, I feel like. One thing that I felt like it was weird was they took away some of the magical elements from the animated film. Like, Mushu isn't in this film. He's replaced by some kind of phoenix bird. But at the same time, they added this villain who is a witch that knows magic for some reason in a film which is otherwise pretty realistic in some way.
Yeah, so, like, there isn't a line between, like, what's real. Like, they wanted to make it realistic, but they still have magic wielder, like a magic wielder.
Yeah, so that was a bit weird. Like, I don't know, the film, I guess, works. Like, it gets its message through with the women empowerment in, I guess, some way. I don't know, it isn't as good as the original at the same time, but it has some... I wouldn't really say that it's a terrible film. It has some, I guess, good points. Like, it's good enough, I guess.
Should we move on to the next one?
Okay, and what's the next one? We have Cruella.
Yes, Cruella slay.
Have you seen this film?
I always put it off, but I've seen so many clips on YouTube about it. Like how her mother dies. It's just mind blown.
I feel like Karol is a guy that just likes some characters, and when I sometimes, oh, so you have seen this film? No.
But I can admit, like, just who plays Cruella? It was not Emma Watson. It was Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Yeah, just look at her. Like, these pictures you have taken, absolute, like, slayage girl work. I'm sorry, I'm just saying these, like, slang words, but it's just this whole, like, I know this is this back in trend of redeeming villains, but it's just so insane because in the, like, opening, like, her motivation for, like, it's not even about Dalmatians. It's just she tries to destroy this family that killed her mother, and she hates Dalmatians because her mom was killed by Dalmatians.
Yeah.
They pushed her off the cliff. Dalmatians. It's so dumb.
Like, in the original, she just wanted a furry coat of Dalmatians, and now she gets a backstory of how now I really hate Dalmatians.
You know what it reminds me of? Have you seen the meme of the trolls, like, because music killed my grandma, okay? It's the same thing here, because Dalmatians killed my mom, okay?
Yeah, it's a really traumatic actually. What can I say about this film? I actually really like this film compared to some of the other more recent remakes, because I feel like this has a style, it has a story, and I feel like it knows what it is and what the style of the visual is, and I feel like that helps this film a lot, because I feel like it makes it work in a better way than what the other remakes does, because I feel like this film knows what it is and it's actually good at doing what it wants to do.
Yeah, it's confident. And I think as you said with Maleficent 1, like they didn't have a clear idea what they wanted to achieve. Cruella kind of wins on that.
I like this film. One thing that I also can comment on is that it is a little bit blurry at the end if Cruella is a good or bad guy at the end. Like it isn't as Cruella as Maleficent, in which she is a clear good guy. I feel like this is a bit more blurry in this film. And as you said, the crazy stuff of where her mom dies and
then she does the same thing. Like I don't know if it was the dogs, but I think she pushed the main villain off the same cliff. Was that correct?
I feel like there is a detail here that I know that you don't know, and I'm not sure if I want to reveal it or not.
Please don't. I just I have to see it. I don't know why I'm so busy. I really want to watch Cruella. I just don't have the time.
Well, there's a little bit more details about Cruella's mom. I can say that.
She wanted a Dalmatian fur coat.
Well, you have to see for yourself, Karol. I don't know, it was quite a good and interesting film. It at least had some originality to it, which I feel like was somewhat lost at this point in some of these remakes.
I think it also kind of reminded me, at least the setup. Have you seen, I mean, you have to have seen Devil Wears Prada, right?
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah,
one.
it's like this, like protege overturning her evil boss kind of type of deal.
I also gotta say that Emma Stone really surprised me in this role, because she's really good at it.
Yeah, she's a good actress.
Yeah, but before I felt like she has played a lot of good character roles, and some things of the way of blending of a more evil character and how the character is somewhat good sometimes. I don't know, I just felt like she was really good in this role. Also very visually, because Cruella gets some interesting clothes in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it brings back to us to like the whole because this movie also had media buzz. I want to say, like, it didn't have controversy, but people felt somehow tired of redeeming the villain movies, right? At this point.
Yeah, I guess.
Even though we didn't have that many.
No, not in this. Not in I guess Disney in this episode, but I guess there has been some other movies that has redeemed the villains stuff.
But I feel like, I mean, we haven't heard anything like bad about it afterwards. So I feel like Cruella kind of showed them like how like she kind of slayed. She kind of ate it up and left no crumbs. Mama.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's just I like women, campy women who do their own thing. I think that's my type of villain.
Yeah, that's be good for you, Karol. Now that's a very good point. More for women doing what they like.
Yeah, which is not killing Dalmatians.
Yeah, probably should have taught that one too.
And we also have the last movie that you have picked up for us.
The last of this list of movies. currently at least, is Pinocchio. And if I thought that Lion King got a lot of hate when it came out, this film was like destroyed from the moment that it came out, because it was just, oh my, we have talked about this a little bit on some of our other videos, but
we literally did, yeah. But I think you picked this for a reason. You still wanted to, like, it fits the theme.
This film is worse in every way possible. Like it's almost strange how, like in the other films, I sometimes felt like some of the changes they made maybe for the better, or most of the time it was for the worse. But in Pinocchio, it's like every original decision that is in this movie was for the worse. If I'm being honest, one of the weirdest thing also that happens to me when I watch this film was like in the beginning scenes where Jiminy Cricket comes into Geppetto's house. It's like scene for scene remake of what Jiminy does do. Like it's like scene for scene what the characters do in there, but it's like shot in a different angle or something, and I just felt weirded out by it. It's like, I remember this, but you have made it slightly different, that it makes it a bit weird for me.
Yeah, like it's too faithful, but it feels off.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah. That's a good word for this whole film when I think about it.
Faithful but off. But I think also Pinocchio had the misfortune of competing against the two other Pinocchios that came out at the same time.
Well, let's be honest, the Russian Pinocchio movie was probably even worse, Karol.
It's really bad. I've seen clips online. But it's still like... But still, 3 Pinocchios came at the same time. It's weird, right?
Like, have you heard the English voice for that Pinocchio? It's like the most ridiculous thing I have heard.
I know, it's just like a father. I'm going to leave, father.
And then he runs away and makes this weird skadoosh, skadoosh, skadoosh.
Skadoosh? Oh my god.
What the heck is that?
But hey, it has its own like personality at least. It has its like, it's different.
Yeah, I guess that. Like the 1940s version is compared to one of the animation's best animated film. And when you have that as an original basic, and you make this, which is so much worse, it's like there are decisions that are just weird for me sometimes. Like when Pinocchio goes outside for the first time, where it's just like the director has turned a button and it's like, let's make it the brightest we possibly can make the screen. And then a famous scene, I guess, from this film is that Pinocchio for some reason goes, like a horse shits on the street, and Pinocchio for some reason just goes to look at the shit.
And in another episodes of animators barely disguised fetish.
And then there's an added character in this film, which is a female puppeteer. But what you realize later on in the film is that she could have been cut out throughout this film, and it wouldn't have changed a single decision that happens in this movie. And then the whole Wonderland thing that I also have mentioned in the other episode, where Pinocchio is supposed to get this tail and ears because he does these bad stuff in did I say Wonderland? I meant Treasure Island, where Pinocchio is supposed to get that because he does bad stuff, but in this version he doesn't do that bad stuff. And be quite honest, there isn't even that much bad stuff. It's like, what was it, root beer? Like in the original they smoked, they drank real beer and they destroyed stuff. Pinocchio doesn't do that in this version, so it doesn't make change. It doesn't. This film doesn't work. Am I trying to get that?
Yeah, I think you gave. I think you made the point actually that they cut away stuff.
like at the end of the film, like it doesn't even end in the same way as the original. You know, it's just like Pinocchio's at the beach, and then he goes away, and that was the ending of the film. Like they don't even really reveal if Pinocchio gets turned into a boy or not. Like in the end, like in the ending scene, he's still a wooden boy, and then if you look really closely at the last scene, it looks like one of his legs turns into more human shaped, but it's like, I guess it's kind of supposed to be like this of you can decide if he is going to remain into a puppet or if he becomes a real boy.
But that sucks. Like, the whole point of Pinocchio is that he becomes a real boy at the end.
And yeah, this film just
It sucks. Let's just say it sucks.
There's no other way than this. This was just a bad adaptation from point A to point B, and sometimes even point C. Like this film also added half an hour of screen time, and I was so confused because I did not understand where that half an hour went into. And something that I discovered is that it was more like 10 minutes. Like some of the added screen times were kind of just more longer credit time. So I don't know. Yeah, like this film was just so something that I feel like people are also split on is if Tom Hanks was good in this film or not.
Oh yeah, he was Geppetto, right?
Yeah, he was Geppetto, and I will be honest, I kind of felt like he was bad in this film. I don't really think that it was any fault of his own. Like, I just felt like the direction, that how he talked and how cartoony he almost was just... Okay, I kind of just felt like I have gotten everything that I wanted to say. Should we just move on?
Yeah, I think it was good for you to let your to get everything off your chest.
This, like one thing that also makes this worse is that I know the original so well because I really like that film, and it is a bit of a darker film at times, but okay, let's move on. So now we have
It's driving you insane. But okay, let's go.
Now we have finally completed going through all the 19 films.
And it only took us 2 hours.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Karol.
I think that's alright. I think you forewarned me this would be a longer episode.
So I just thought that I would rank these from my favorite to the least favorite. And I guess number 19, because there's 19 films, Maleficent. I don't really see a redeeming quality about that one.
The only good quality is that it sets up Maleficent 2.
Yeah, number 18, Pinocchio. You probably just heard what I felt about that one.
Rage. Alright, next one.
17, Sorcerer, Apprentice. I just didn't feel like that film had anything really special or anything that rememberable. Like, I feel like it's a film that is probably going to be forgotten by time. And
I've already forgot about it. I think people forgot as well.
Number 16, the 1994 version of Jungle Book wasn't, I guess, for me. 15, Aladdin. As I said, Aladdin kind of was the breaking point of how I really somewhat disliked on how some of the remakes were made.
Yeah,
14, Maleficent 2. I probably should have put that a little bit higher up, but anyway, I wouldn't say that this is a good movie, but it's
a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a movie that it feels like you have to see. 13, Lion King. It's a bad version of a great film.
I think that's the kindest words you can say about it.
I just felt like I disliked the others once more. Dalmatians, or 102 Dalmatians. I guess Glenn Close's Cruella was a bit fun.
Yeah.
Let's see, 11, Alice Through the Looking Glass. Kind of a fun, weird sequel to the first one, and wow, I liked a lot of the weird stuff. I'm not sure if I really liked when Alice actually went back in time, but it was at least better than some of the films. Mulan, nothing really too great about this version. Nothing really.
But the movie is okay.
No.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah, probably a bit more to the bad side of okay, but yeah. Number 9, Jungle Book. It has some good points, some funny lines, and some visual stuff that is still good. I guess I have to admit that I can see somewhat why people might like it, but it wasn't for me. Dumbo, as I said, Dumbo was an okay film. There was, as I said, I didn't feel like there was anything that was really that extraordinary bad about it, but at the same time, not really anything too great about it either. Number 7, Alice in Wonderland. Visual looking treat, I guess, with a somewhat
It's
fun characters.
Yeah, it tries its own thing, and I think it kind of works.
Cruella, I just feel like Cruella knows what it is, and that they managed to deliver somewhat of a good movie with that premise. Number 5, Cinderella. As I said, I feel like if we're talking about critically, I feel like this Cinderella version is probably the best Disney remake. But as I also told, I am not really that biggest fan of Cinderella. Number 4, Lady and the Tramp. Visually looking quite good remake of Lady and the Tramp. Number 3, Christopher Robin.
Not surprised, actually. I thought it would be number 1 honestly.
As I said, I just felt like the beginning part with the humans and some of the tropes of these kind of films. I felt they weren't anything extraordinary. It was okay, but when Winnie the Pooh comes back into the film, and that's when I feel like the film really gets good. But what did you want to say, Karol?
No, I was almost on the way to say exactly the same thing. Like, as you said, humans uninteresting, but when he is on the screen, it's a solid movie.
It was also a bit weird because I kind of felt like at the same time when this film came out, I was kind of it was kind of at the same age where I was turning into an adult, so it was. It's like Winnie the Pooh follows me throughout my life.
That's pretty cute. Not gonna lie.
Number 2, Beauty and the Beast. I don't know, just a solid films. I like the songs of the film. Like, I know that some people have problem with some of the auto tuning, but it didn't bother me too much. Like, I just felt like there was put into more effort into this remake than some of the others. Oh yeah, when I think about the song, I was going to mention that Lana Del Rey's version of Once Upon a Time from the Malificent movie, I really like that version of it. And number 1, the original 101 Dalmatian. I just felt like that was the best remake, and maybe it's somewhat of nostalgic because is one that I actually saw in my childhood before all of these other ones came out, but I still feel like it
holds up.
knows really what it knows what to do, and in some ways it's different enough, but I still feel like it's enjoyable. Like I feel like it's the best one made. And that was my list, and this was our video on every currently released Disney live action remakes, and I'm not sure if I want to talk about any of these ones again after this.
Yeah, I mean, we did cover 19 movies. I think we can put it on the shelf for now.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk about more Maleficents. I'm kidding.
I probably could talk more about that sequel because, as I said, it was crazy.
No, but I personally think we said enough. I think it's okay.
Thank you for listening to this way too long video of me, Karol.
No problem. It was a delight. So, is it alright if I top it off?
Yeah, it's alright.
In that case, dear listeners, as always, thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. Don't forget to follow, hit that bell icon, or follow us on socials like Twitter, YouTube, or Tumblr. Also, big thanks to Jahazar for intro and outro comedy. See you again in the next episode, and have a wonderful day.